So let's talk about Kanye, because I know you got some thoughts on Kanye. I'm going to read both stories, Adam, and then you can comment on it. I'll go first with his comments about George Floyd, and then we'll go into what 50 Cent said. So I think that's on page 6 or 7. Is it 6? Okay, 6. Here we go. So Kanye West apologizes for spreading lies about George Floyd's death. This is Kanye offered what the media is calling an apology for comments he made in reference to George Floyd. If you recall, West recently declared that Floyd died from fentanyl and not due to homicide under the knee of the Derek Chauvin. When I see that video as a black person, it hurts my feelings. And I know that police do attack and that America is generally racist. And I understand that when we got to say Black Lives Matter, the idea of it made us feel good together as people. Now, afterwards, there was some things where the money went in order to push us to the Democratic vote. So when I questioned the death of George Floyd, it hurt my people. I want to apologize because God has showed me by what Adidas is doing, by what the media is doing, I know what it feels to have a knee on my neck right now. So, and then 50 Cent came out and said, Kanye should master the art of shutting the up. Okay, that's what he said. I've seen people in this position because of things they have done, not things they have said. Now you got to master the art of shutting the hell up. The rapper was reportedly reacting to a CNN headline alleging West has a disturbing history of admiring Hitler. I have never seen anything like this before. A screenshot. I think Kanye should buy the car he likes the best and just ride off into the sunset. It's really a wrap. People are really hurt by this shit. And there's a bunch of other things that came after that. Black people are actually... anyways, these are the comments he made about Jews and blacks and comparing them. So, Adam, thoughts on the story?
Look, I haven't really been... Obviously, I've been following Kanye, well, for years, obviously decades now, but obviously over the last few weeks, I haven't really been too opinionated because I was more asking questions than making statements, something that I think we could all kind of get behind. Like before you start, I believe this, I say this, like let's hear him out, see what he has to say. With that being said, I've really had an opportunity to kind of process what's going on with Kanye, and then to a bigger context, like the groups or the people that he's really hurting. So number one, Kanye is a musical genius. I'm okay with saying that. Like he's created amazing music. He's a trailblazer. He's awesome in that regard. But the problem with geniuses sometimes is they, even as great as they are in their respective careers, they have blind spots. Okay, so Kanye, what are some of his blind spots? Clearly he's a narcissist. Clearly he has a God complex. He doesn't know how to just be a normal guy. Why would he? He's been pedestaled and elevated and coddled everywhere he's gone over the last 10, 20 years because of the greatness that he's reached. So if you have these blind spots, you don't know how to treat people. You don't know how to interact with people. You're not a man of the people. You're doing things for the attention of your brand. Okay, so you can be a genius, but also have major issues in your situation. But a lot of what people aren't really addressing about Kanye, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, is the influence that the Kardashian female matriarchy has had on this man's life. I've said this before. Again, we all know my history with the Kardashians. My best friend, Chris Humphries, married Kim, 2011. I lived a Kardashian life for a fucking year. I saw this lifestyle, I saw this bubble, and I saw the head of the matriarchy, Kris Jenner, and her influence over all the women in this family. But let's look at what's happened to all the men in this family. And that's what people are not addressing with Kanye. Like, all right, we'll start with Bruce Jenner. This was a world famous Olympian decathlon GOAT, and now he's a transgender woman. Okay, cool. The father, dead. How did he die? Like at a young age? I don't know. That's not a conspiracy. I'm just saying he died at a young age. If you go down the list, Lamar Odom turned in from an NBA athlete to a literal crackhead. Okay, Scott Disick, who is a good-looking young guy, whatever, rehab galore, and I'm friends with him, so I'm not talking shit. When you look at the other men in the family, Rob Kardashian is a recluse, hasn't been seen in years. The women run the show in that family. So when you bring in a leader like Kanye, a man who has conviction, and you kind of feminize him and say, we run the show now, and he already has mental health issues and bipolar tendencies, like how do you expect him to react? And then final point to the Kim K thing is, dude, he's been completely demasculated with this whole Pete Davidson situation where you're going to leave your husband, Kim K, and start parading with this fucking joke of a guy, Pete Davidson? What do you think that's going to do to someone who has a fragile ego and a fragile mental capacity already, despite his, amazing gifts? Like, that's going to fuck you up. So what he's doing and what he's feeling, there's so much going on that it's hard to kind of put yourself in Kanye's shoes, because you don't know, like, when you're operating at such a high level. Even Rogan said, like, when you plug in, you see what he said about like 100 electricity volt, and that's something that's only has a 40-watt capacity. There's so much going on that how can you restrain that? With that being said, that doesn't excuse what he's been saying specifically about Jews. Now, anytime that you paint a group, whether it's blacks, gays, Jews, Asians, this, and you start group talking rather than individuals, that's going to be a problem. And as a Jew, initially, I didn't overreact. We've had multiple shows about Kanye. I haven't gone off like the wire. But here's what I've learned about Jews, especially talking with friends and especially being around Miami Beach and seeing what's going on. Jews are not fucking playing anymore. All right? We're not fucking playing. Everything that's happened in Jewish history, culminating with the Holocaust, which eventually led to the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, there's been a run-up of Jews being the scapegoat and being the bad guy and being the person or the group of people that were the reasons why societies have not thrived and were declining. And it ended with the final solution that Hitler tried to accomplish, murdering 6 million Jews. And at some point, Jews were like, that's it. And there's a saying in Judaism, never again. So when there's even like a small blip on the radar of people painting Jews to be whatever, as a groundswell within Jews, we're like, that ain't fucking happening. And like, if you look at the creation of Israel and what they've been able to do over the last 50, 60 years and become the great, powerful nation where you're the size of fucking Delaware amongst a sea of Arab people that have always wanted your death, and you see what Israel has turned into and the IDF and Mossad and what that's turned into, Jews are just not going to accept this anymore. So by default, there's going to be a defensive reaction and also an offensive reaction by Jews to say, listen, Kanye, shut the fuck up. We're not playing like that. We're not playing this game. You've tried to murder every single one of our people. We're not even allowing this to happen. And then I'll give you one final case example. For like the people out there that are like, well, the Jews, they're all in cahoots and they run the world. It's like, well, let's like look here politically in America. Two of the biggest fundraisers in politics those are Jews. On the left, you can point to George Soros. He has a very specific agenda. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, we know that he has an agenda. And on the right side of things, rest in peace, was Sheldon Adelson. Hardcore Republican, hardcore conservative, multi millions and billions of dollars that they've both put into the system. Now, if Jews are in cahoots to run the world, why would two famous Jewish billionaires be completely funding complete opposite agendas? Like, give me an answer to that. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's my thoughts on Kanye. And anytime you label a group, you're going to have an issue, especially these days as the Jews.
I love two of the things you talk. First of all, the anti-Semitic stuff he says is just bad. I mean, people should just be able to look at that and just say, all right, this is just bad. And I think you have seen a lot of people rally, with the Jewish community who are tired of the way anti-Semitism has been tolerated by many for a very long time. Are saying, enough, Kanye, listen. I oftentimes listen to him, and I have to be honest, I don't understand a lick of what he's saying. I don't understand a lot of what he's saying. I almost feel like this guy is trying to figure out how he feels about stuff out loud. And he should just take a minute to just, maybe he's not used to being in the limelight. Maybe he's not, in terms of talking about his opinions. He's getting invited on Fox News shows. This is new for him. This is different. It's different. It's one thing to be an artist and to have an opinion. It's another thing, to be front and center in these types of interviews. I think he needs to sit back and he needs to think a little bit about how he feels about stuff, about what he might be asked, about what he's comfortable putting out there. It seems to me now that this stuff about George Floyd, he's walking this back, saying, well, I needed to clarify. Well, that involves thinking about how you really feel about issues and understanding that once you put it out there, it's very hard to say, oh no, actually what I really meant is this. So even though he's famous, he's front and center for his, artistic work and all of that, he hasn't been famous in this way, looking to become the CEO of Parler and getting highly political when it comes to his content. And when you get highly political, every time, I always say every time I open my mouth, half the country's going to hate what I say. But a lot of it is very well thought out beforehand. I want to make sure I'm comfortable with what I'm saying. If I'm comfortable with what I'm saying, cool. Half the country can hate what I'm saying. But I don't know that he's always comfortable with the message he's putting out there. Then there seems to be some reflection, and then he kind of changes it. So he just needs to understand he's in new turf right now, and he's going to be held accountable for the things he says when it comes to politics, when it comes to comments like this. So this anti-Semitic stuff rubs a lot of people wrong, rightfully so. I love that angle you took with the Kardashians. The Kardashian culture is incredibly toxic. I mean, we talk about toxic masculinity. That's actually toxic femininity. That's the face of it. Her face, that whole family, it's a hot mess. So I don't know. I'm not going to blame the Kardashians for what's happening to Kanye in any way, because I think he had some troubled stuff going on with himself before. But I don't see how any strong, opinionated man survives that place. I don't think it's possible. I mean, I think that's why you see the Pete Davidsons. I mean, these are all I don't even know that that's real. But I don't think it helped him to be in that culture. You're a strong, opinionated guy who's going to see the world differently potentially than them. You're not going to survive that. You're going to come out there frustrated, antagonized. So I don't think it helped. Do I think it caused some of what we're seeing now in terms of his no, but I certainly don't think it helped him to be on the more stable side of issues. I just think he needs to think. He needs to reflect. He needs to, because you need to own what you say, and people need to apologize. If he doesn't feel that way, he should apologize. If he does feel that way, he should own it. And, consequences come when they come. And if companies don't want to associate with him or whatnot, he's going to have to deal with that consequence. But I find him an incredibly odd figure when I listen to him. I find myself trying to decipher what? And oftentimes I'm lost in a cave. I'm like, what is he saying? What's going on? And I don't know if that's people say, it's mental health. I don't know what it is. Is it just a guy who's new to this component and trying to figure out where he stands on stuff out loud? I don't know. I really don't know.
Quick response just on the Kardashian thing. Just to kind of give you a case example. Kanye has been very explicit. He has major problems with, I don't know what he calls her exactly, but Kris Jenner, like Commandant Kris or General Kris. They kind of has like a little funny word for her. Basically, she's the dictator. Right?
Yeah, I believe it.
And the problem that happened with my friend, he's a good guy he's from the Minneapolis, Midwestern values. When he got into the family, married, they're like, all right, this is the way we do things around here. This is the way we're going to operate. He's like, yeah, I don't want to do that. And to the point where he's like, yeah, you're going to move to Minneapolis and be a part of she's like, are you fucking kidding? I'm staying in LA. We're doing LA. And that was they're like, you should probably have that conversation before you got married. But that was the whirlwind situation that was. But here's a guy with actual principles and Midwestern good values that got, infiltrated into this LA Hollywood toxic feminism scene that you're talking about. And it just obviously wouldn't work. But Kanye has been in that for 10 years. What kind of stuff do you think that's happened to his mentality since that? So
I think even if you're in it though, like the Kardashian clan and what they do and what they're capable of and all the women, and it's there's something odd even if you're in the entertainment culture and in the entertainment business. I think there's something deeply odd about the way they build their empire and the stuff that they do. And I don't understand why any Midwestern guy, truthfully, I don't know what the draw is there. I mean, I really don't. There's a whole lot of fake going on. Anyone who markets themselves, by the way, I always tell people as just pure fake top to bottom, there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes probably that you're not going to like. But yeah, I believe that. I believe that you walk into that as a guy and it's just like, sit down, shut up, we're going to tell you how it's going to go. Yeah. That would certainly not work for a Kanye, which is why I would wonder why you would even go there. That's certainly not going to work for any guy who wants some autonomy over his own life and his own media presence and his own. I mean, it's like you walk in there and it's like, is it a contract? Do you sign a form that you give your life away? It wouldn't surprise me. For the gift of being with a Kardashian.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.